A geological group who drilled a hole about 14.4 kilometers deep in the crust of the Earth are saying that they heard human screams. Screams have been heard from the condemned souls from Earth's deepest hole. Terrified scientists are afraid they have let loose the evil powers of hell up to the Earth's surface. The information we are gathering is so surprising, that we are sincerely afraid of what we might find down there, stated Dr. A. Zakov, the manager of the project in remote Siberia. The second surprise was the high temperature they discovered in the Earth's center. The calculations indicate the given temperature was about 1,100 degrees Celsius, or over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, A. Zakov pointed out. This is far more than we expected. It seems almost like an inferno of fire is brutally going on in the center of the Earth. The last discovery was nevertheless the most shocking to our ears, so much so that the scientists are afraid to continue the project. We tried to listen to the Earth's movements at certain intervals with supersensitive microphones, which were let down through the hole. What we heard turned those logically thinking scientists into a trembling ruins. It was a sometimes a weak, but high-pitched sound which we thought to be coming from our own equipment, explained Dr. A. Zakov. But after some adjustments we comprehended that indeed the sound came from the Earth's interior. We could hardly believe our own ears. We heard a human voice, screaming in pain. Even though one voice was discernible, we could hear thousands, perhaps millions, in the background, of suffering souls screaming. After this ghastly discovery, about half of the scientists quit because of fear. Hopefully, that which is down there will stay there, Dr. A. Zakov added. What really unnerved the Soviets, apart from the voice recordings, was the appearance that same night of a fountainhead of luminous gas shooting up from the drill site, and out of the midst of this incandescent cloud pillar a brilliant being with bat wings revealed itself with the words, in Russian "I have conquered," emblazoned against the dark Siberian sky. The incident was absolutely unreal, the Soviets cried out in terror, says Mr. Numedal. Later that night, he saw ambulance crews circulating in the community. A driver he knew told him that they had been told to sedate everybody with a medication known to erase short-term memory. The Soviets used this drug in the treatment of shock victims. As a communist I don't believe in heaven or the Bible, but as a scientist I now believe in hell, said Dr. A. Zakov. Needless to say we were shocked to make such a discovery. But we know what we saw and we know what we heard. And we are absolutely convinced that we drilled through the gates of hell. Dr. A. Zakov continued. The drill suddenly began to rotate wildly, indicating that we had reached a large empty pocket or cavern. Temperature sensors showed a dramatic increase in heat to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. We lowered a microphone, designed to detect the sounds of plate movements down the shaft. But instead of plate movements we heard a human voice screaming in pain. At first we thought the sound was coming from our own equipment. But when we made adjustments our worst suspicions were confirmed. The screams weren't those of a single human, they were the screams of millions of humans. Do you know why Jacques Cousteau, the famous underwater explorer, quit deep-sea diving sometime before he died? It is said that he stopped because he had heard in one of the underwater caves he was exploring, the sounds of people screaming. There was also another time, when one of his men, who was in a diving bell in the deepest trench at the Bermuda Triangle, also had a similar experience. He signaled to be brought up immediately. After being revived from his shock, he told others of his frightening experience of hearing screams of people in pain.
At the deepest point on planet Earth, and this has built it bigger. As an architect, I have traveled the world investigating some of the most incredible feats of engineering. And right now, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of the most dangerous construction project in the world.
Over 2.5 miles below the Earth's surface, the deepest gold mine ever is getting deeper by the day.
In 3, 2, 1.
At over 12,000 feet under the Earth, where earthquakes are a constant threat. 5,700 of the world's toughest workers face a job site with temperatures hotter than 150 degrees.
My God, burning hot water. God, burning hot water. God, burning hot water. People flocked from all over the world to mine this ore. It was so plentiful that you could actually see the gold on the surface. Over time, mines opened from the east side to the west side of the city, mining deeper and deeper into the earth.
Today, there are 70 gold mines in South Africa, employing over 500,000 people. One South African mine is attempting to dig deeper than ever before. An hour outside of Johannesburg, the Mponeng mine is already the deepest mine on the planet, a subterranean gold factory 2.5 miles down. With more tunnels than the New York City subway and the world's longest elevators. However, most of the original gold deposit has already been mined, and the rest will be gone in just 8 years. So to keep the mine going, geologists have been drilling and testing in all directions, searching for more gold. They finally found it, a new deposit called a reef, located over 3 miles from the surface, holding over 140 tons of gold, worth over $6 billion.
So if you didn't go deeper, within about 7 or 8 years, you would have simply mined all the gold that you can get at that depth.
That's right.
So this new project gives you the potential opportunity to extend the life of the mine by how many years?
The life of mine with the current project, the life of mine will be extended to 2029.
2029?
That's correct.
So instead of 7 or 8 years, we're talking about 20 years.
That's right, yes.
While the team mines out the final gold deposits in the existing mine, they've also added a new deepening team. Their job? Tunnel 7,000 feet deeper to reach the new reef, one blast at a time. The commute to a job a third of the way into the Earth's crust takes an hour and a half. The trip starts in the longest elevator in the world, a 50-ton beast that carries 120 miners at a time.
You know, given where we're going, Gordon, you guys didn't do much to kind of soften the blow and make this thing look nice.
This is it. This is mining. This is reality.
You ready?
Okay, right, let's go. Right on key, Billy.
All right. Here we go.
The elevator travels at 40 miles an hour.
It pretty much feels like you're free falling down into the earth.
Now 1,000 feet to the surface, 2,000 feet. I'm now deeper than the Grand Canyon. I'm now almost at 8,000 feet.
For every 100 feet we drop, the rock gets 1 degree hotter.
Every couple hundred feet, it gets a little bit hotter, a little bit more pressure, and you can feel that inside your head. We're now approaching the bottom. This will be 12,600 feet. Keep in mind, this is the deepest point that any mine has ever worked at in the history of mining.
From the bottom of the elevator, it's another 1.5 miles to the face of the tunneling project.
Morning.
Morning. It's morning, by the way.
It's the blackest black that you have ever seen in your life. It's the blackest black that you have ever seen in your life. It's underground. Because there's no other light source at all.
I mean, we are so far from the sun right now.
Well, 12,000 feet further than we were this morning.
The closer you get to the active face of where the rock is, the hotter it gets. So as I step down, right, every single step, I can feel the temperature getting slightly higher and slightly higher. And right there, that is the very deepest point in this mine.
It'll take 600 blasts to reach the new gold reef. They're prepping for blast number 540. And blasting in the deepest spot on Earth is unlike any other kind of blasting. Faults scattered throughout the rock make earthquakes and rockfalls a constant danger. Punishing geothermal heat also makes the working face a scalding 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my God. That's burning hot water. The water that's being heated by this exposed quartzite is literally brought to the point of burning my hand just from the energy from the earth.
Energy from the earth, and then of course the drilling.
Did you know there's fires that burn underground for thousands of years? It may sound like a horror film, but it's actually happening all over the world. The town Centralia, Pennsylvania once boasted a booming population of over 1,200 people. Now empty lots and cracked pavements sit on top of a giant burning pit of fire. Seriously, a fire has been burning underground since May of 1962. It all started when a bit of garbage in a nearby landfill started smoldering. Since the landfill was built on top of an old coal mine, it was only a matter of time before the fire reached the coal. Some 50-odd years later, and numerous attempts to put it out, the coal fire now stretches nearly 400 acres. It smolders just below the surface, occasionally releasing toxic gases into the air, such as carbon monoxide. In fact, it's those gases that cause people to leave the town. Some residents started passing out in their basements, and soon town officials couldn't deny it anymore. The area wasn't safe. So most residents left, and the town is declared condemned. Now tourists and fans of Silent Hill flock to the town to check out the sights or smells. Our AP Julia was one of the tourists back in 2009. She described it as like hell on earth. It is like hell on earth. It is like hell on earth. While Centralia certainly is the most famous, it's not the largest or the oldest underground fire. Coal fires can occur naturally too, from lightning strikes or even from spontaneous combustion. Yeah. Coal can just burn. It's just its natural reaction when it interacts with oxygen, even at temperatures as low as 104 degrees. Whatever sets the spark, it doesn't take long for a seam of coal to catch fire. And even though it might be underground, oxygen-rich air reaches the coal in the small spaces between rocks and soil, fanning the flames. And then sometimes it burns for centuries. Here in the States, the oldest coal fire lies outside of the small town of Glenwood Springs, Colorado. The South Canyon #1 coal mine fire has been burning since 1910, maybe even since 1899, but it's by no means a novelty in the area. The surrounding mountains are littered with underground coal fires. It's so commonplace. There's a park called Burning Mountain, and even nearby towns host a Burning Mountain festival. Those fires aren't even dangerous. The real dangerous fire, well, that honor goes to an underground fire outside of St. Louis, Missouri. Well, it's more of a smolder. This heat doesn't actually have any flames yet. According to a St. Louis County report, it's called a subsurface smoldering event. It only started in 2010, but it's already putting thousands of residents at risk. Only 1,200 feet away lies an old nuclear waste site. So if the smolder reaches the waste, well, it's not good. Most residents were unaware such a danger lurked in their neighborhood till a little pamphlet showed up at the door like, hey guys, here's this emergency evacuation plan just in case this really bad thing happened, or as they called it, a catastrophic event. Basically, it won't go boom, but it could create and release large amounts of radioactive fallout into nearby areas. But officials claim the landfill is safe and intensively monitored. The only thing at risk from the fire is your nose. Apparently, it just smells horrible. Those are just a few of the fires here in the US. There's dozens of fires in India and China. It's a surprisingly common problem. A fire burning throughout a coal seam in China spreads for thousands of miles. Or a fire in Jharia, India is reportedly 100 years old. It started in 1916 and rages to this day. But even that might not be one of the oldest ones. In Germany, Brennenderberg, or Burning Mountain, caught fire in 1688. But the oldest one might be in Australia, also called Burning Mountain. Okay, wow, these names are super original. And some estimates say this fire hasn't gone out in 5,500 years. There's literally hundreds of thousands of these coal seam fires burning all over the world right this very minute. But if you're wondering, yeah, there is an environmental cost. All these fires send millions of tons of CO2, a greenhouse gas, pouring into our atmosphere. But the problem with all these fires, well, there's a reason many of them have been burning for so long. They're notoriously hard to put out. Some experts think the solution is a backhoe digging them out, but others worry exposing the fires to more air might make them worse. In Centralia, they spent over $5 million trying to find a solution of smothering it with concrete and soil. But it didn't work, so sometimes it's just cheaper and easier to let it burn. Burns for centuries. According to experts, Centralia could burn for another 250 years. According to experts, Centralia could burn for another 250 years.
According to experts, Centralia could burn for another 250 years.
It's the blackest black that you have ever seen in your life.
Number 9. Door to Hell, Gates of Hell. The Door to Hell in Derwiz, Turkmenistan is a Soviet experiment that turned out to be bare unintended consequences. In 1971, Scientists initially wanted to use the remote desert site to drill for natural gas. The ground beneath, however, collapsed as the drilling rig hit a natural cavern filled with gas, and they had to stop the drilling. The hole is approximately 230 feet wide and 65.5 feet deep. Fearing the spread of poisonous gases into the surrounding towns, geologists intentionally lit the natural methane gas by tossing a grenade into the hole, anticipating that it'd burn off within a week. That was more than 4 decades ago, and it has, however, been burning continuously ever since. Its glowing is visible from Derwize each night. Fittingly, the name Derwize means gate in the Turkmen language, so locals have dubbed the burning hole the Gate to Hell, and is actively being encouraged as a tourist attraction site by the Turkmen government. At night, camel spiders attracted to its light and warmth fall to their deaths in this pit's fiery bowels. Number 8. The Kola Super Deep Borehole. The project to drill into the Earth's surface began near Murmansk in Perchensky District, Russia, in the 1970s, when Soviet scientists wanted to learn more about the Earth's crust. Over 2 decades, they managed to dig more than 39,600 feet, 7.5 miles, into the Earth so deep that if Mount Everest was placed into the hole, its peak would still be underwater by more than 10,560 feet, 2 miles. The Kola borehole is also further down than the wreck of the Titanic, which is 12,500 feet down into the ocean. However, in 1992, they had to stop drilling because the temperature was around 180 degrees Celsius, which was far much hotter than the scientists had projected it would be. All this drilling wasn't for nothing though, as some scientific discoveries were made. The researchers found out that there is water at 12 kilometers into the Earth's crust. Additionally, they found 24 new types of long-dead single-celled organisms and gained access to rocks that were 2.7 billion years old. Hidden underneath this rusty lid is the Kola Super Deep Borehole. If you fell down the hole, it would take around 4 minutes to reach the bottom. Locals in the area say that the hole is so deep, you can hear the screams of people being tortured in hell. Hence its nickname, the Well to Hell.
Let's talk about how hot the core is and why. We've already established that we can't put a thermometer down there to study the temperatures. So scientists tried to figure that out by creating the same crushing pressures in their labs. Again, in 2013, a team of French researchers came up with the most accurate number that we've had in years. They put pure iron through high pressure, almost higher than that of the core, to come up with their findings. The temperature of the inner core is about 9,800 degrees. There are 3 main reasons why the Earth is still boiling. The first one is that the core has remained hot from the time our planet was formed. Secondly, it generates heat from the friction of the dense materials as they move. And the last reason it's so hot is from the decay of radioactive elements. So why is this important? It makes it easy for scientists to understand how it affects the speed of vibrations that go through the core. Remember the P waves I told you about earlier? Well, these guys travel slower than they should while passing through the core. This shows that there must be some other element in there that we haven't figured out yet. Nickel is one of them, but when scientists ran some tests with nickel, the P waves didn't slow down enough. So they started digging, metaphorically. In 2015, a new study from Durham University came out. It claimed that 90% of the Earth's sulfur is in the core. 90% of the Earth's sulfur is in the core. 90% of the Earth's sulfur is in the core. 90% of the Earth's sulfur is in the core. 90% of the Earth's sulfur is in the core.
But I will tell you what will happen to cowards, and to everyone who is unfaithful, or dirty-minded, or who murders, or is sexually immoral, or uses witchcraft, or worships idols, or tells lies. They will be thrown into that lake of fire and burning sulfur. Will be thrown into that lake of fire and burning sulfur. Will be thrown into that lake of fire and burning sulfur. This is the second death. Revelation 21:8. Hell is a dark place, where people who upset God will be taken to after they die, to be tormented by fire that will never burn out. It also seems to be a temporary holding place for those people, as they wait for judgment. After judgment, if their names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life, they will be tossed into the lake of fire, which is also called the second death.